So Assassin's Creed Black Flag Resynced trailer showcase, whatever you want to call it, dropped yesterday. I checked it out, thought about what I saw, because yeah, I sometimes do that, and I decided to make this video in order to share my view about the situation. So for starters, it's very obvious that the game looks very pretty. It would be a bit weird situation if we had a remaster or re-release or whatever you want to call it to be ugly or uglier than what it was. The problem is, for me, this is irrelevant. Black Flag, when it released, looked amazing, and I went into it today, and it still looks amazing, so them changing these things, it's not going to change how I approach the game at all. What I'm mostly curious about, as always, is gameplay. So, what exactly did they change, or why did they change it for the next release? Well, let's start from the beginning. First system that was mentioned was the combat. Apparently, it is much better, crispier, fluid, whatever the hell they used in order to describe it in that preview. And to that I say, I haven't saw that. Maybe it's just me not playing the game and not seeing it, or rather it's harder to see when they're showcasing it like that. So I reckon I would have to dive into the game and check it out, at least in the beginning, where you have the first major confrontation either with that assassin guy or with the guards that are guarding Steve Bonnet. However, the thing that I noticed were those flashes of white and orange and yellow or whatever the hell those things were when you're parrying. I don't understand what the hell is even that. Why do we need a visual indicator that I parried something or that I'm going to perform certain move? That never was a thing in the original one, so I don't understand what is the purpose of adding that shit. Because to me it looks stupid. Why do perfect parries need to have this type of a flashing light or whatever the fuck that is? It's really off-putting to me because it just doesn't feel right. I don't know how else to explain that. Also, when Edward was fighting all the enemies, where is blood? I don't see a single drop of blood. Is that some kind of a censorship that you can actually turn on and off later in the game because they just wanted to be PG-13 friendly or whatever the hell they were doing? I don't really know. But I want blood. If I'm going to stab a person through his chest, there should be a gush of blood. Again, why isn't that there? So, apart from dumbing down things with these flashes and indicators and lack of blood, I don't see any difference with combat whatsoever. Again, it might be that I'm looking at someone else playing and I need to experience it myself, but from what I have seen, it's completely same, apart from the things that I mentioned. Same thing goes for parkour. It kinda looks a bit crispier, but at the end of the day, it's not a huge improvement. For example, if you put stuff from Assassin's Creed Unity, the way Arno was traversing all the ledges and buildings and all that thing. Then there was some talk about stealth system, and apparently Edward can now crouch, and that essentially is a good thing. I reckon there comes some kind of a buff to your character when you're crouching, as in lower visibility or something along the lines. So in that sense, that's a good change, and I can totally see why. However, this next change surprised me a bit. It's all about eavesdropping and tailing your target. They say that in the original game, when you were discovered, it meant that you were instantly desynchronized, which means that you failed your mission. And apparently people didn't like this. But let's think about this problem, shall we? So the mission is, or the objective of the mission is that you need to follow a target, eavesdrop on their conversation in order to gather intel. And if you fail in any moment, as in you are seen or something along the lines, well, naturally the mission should fail because you were caught in the act. And if people who you were eavesdropping on notice that, that means that they are now compromised. They need to change their plans because someone actually figured stuff out. So, to me, in that particular logic, getting desynchronized was completely justified because that meant that you failed at your task. So I wonder what happens now when you fail. I've seen on the preview that you just go and kill people and the stuff continues as is. And as far as I'm concerned, that's very fucking dumb. Because these missions require of you to be flawless. Because if you fail, then you cannot progress and people know that you actually spied on them. And that's the whole point of gathering intel without being seen. Not to mention the whole mission tested your skills to adapt, to find blending spots, to disappear in crowd. Because again, the idea is not to be seen by the people who you are spying. And now this concept or this thing is completely removed, and in my opinion it feels like it was dumbed down. Because what happens now when they catch you eavesdropping? The mission completes and it's like, oh well, we caught you, but still you're gonna kill us and we're not going to tell stuff, blah, 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 stuff like that. I don't know, man. To me, that seems very freaking weird to abandon that concept altogether. It would have been much better if you gave people more wiggle room in order to find these spaces or whatnot, not to fail the stuff instantly, but you still need to retain that particular sense of gathering intelligence in order to get to your goal. So I don't know, to me this feels like a downgrade. And when you take into account the previous changes with parry system, I think we are onto something here. Then the next scene was all about the Jackdaw. The way they improved firepower, flexibility, this and that, and okay, it seems like a natural thing to do. They also reveal that we are getting these 3 new officers which are going to enhance the ship capabilities when you get them as a part of your crew. And that's an interesting concept. They will probably add more depth to the ship. But the thing that kinda caught my attention was having a woman as a naval officer back in the days of the golden age of piracy. I mean, what the hell is even that? This woman called Lucy Baldwin, I don't know where they pulled her from, but she definitely does not fit this particular narrative. I could even understand if she was disguised. Many female pirates did that. But this woman looks sexy as hell and she's going to be on a pirate ship full of men? I don't know what were these people thinking, but they definitely weren't thinking straight. I'm not hating on women or anything like that, because obviously some people might comment on this if they actually watch this video. But it's just not natural. And it's a eyesore because you clearly see that something isn't right. So yeah, okay, more women at the golden age of piracy, sure, whatever. I know we have Anne Bonny and Mary Read, but they're already established characters and we know everything about them. Because again, established characters means that they existed in history. But this whole situation with this new officer just feels forced. I knew Ubisoft is going to do some bullshit. I just didn't anticipate it's going to happen in this particular way. But okay, whatever. And finally, to conclude this showcase, they added a monkey and a cat on the ship. It would be interesting to see if cat is going to perform its natural duty on the ship, that is catching small animals like mice. And as far as the monkey man goes, well, I reckon it's just a gimmick because we had a monkey in Pirates of the Caribbean, so I guess there's that. You could say it's a nice little Easter egg in that sense. And that's basically it. That was their showcase. I mean, there were some other things that they were babbling about, like this or that, and the workshop and whatever. It's completely relevant. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that not a lot have changed, and all the changes that they introduced, well, some of them make sense, and others are completely nonsensical. Would I give $60 for this game in order to play it? If I'm talking from a reviewer perspective, I mean, obviously I have to, I don't have a choice. But if I'm looking as a gamer, as someone who wants to revisit Black Flag again, I am still not convinced that I should give them my money in order to re-experience this whole thing. Because again, there is the original game. I have it. If I so desire to go into Black Flag again, I can boot it, I can play it, I can experience everything again. And in some situations, it feels like the original game is a bit better in terms of gameplay mechanics and all other things that we were able to see 13 years ago. The only thing I know is that I will definitely play it in order to review it and tell to the general population whether or not this is just a cash grab, an overpriced reskin or whatever you want to call it, and whether or not is it better for you just to go and play the original Black Flag or jump into some other game that has this pirate gimmick, the recent one being Windrose. I would say not great, not terrible, definitely not worth $60. I guess stay tuned for the full review when the game comes out to see whether or not I'm wrong, but I have a sneaky suspicion that I'm kinda right in this sense. Anyway, if you enjoy what I'm babbling here, you know what you need to do. Like, share, subscribe, stuff like that. And also, don't forget to write in the comment section. I read all of your comments. I'm really interested in what you guys have to say, because that type of interaction is very important to me. Anyway, that's it from me. Until the next one.